Hello, everyone. I am Wes Otis. I am here with the lovely Michelle. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, how you doing?
So this is our first time with this particular show. It's called The First Time We're Doing This. Let's jump in. If you can't hear us, you will scream at us, I'm sure. Today has been an amazing day for us and for the show and for, the cast. In my opinion, for all the cast, because we were nominated for an Ennie for Otherworld Hollywood, and we've been doing this for 6 years. So, we're kind of at a point where we're like, okay, are we ever going to get nominated? And then to just get that email this morning was kind of amazing. So we're going to kind of talk about that. We're going to talk about Call of Cthulhu. We're going to talk about Otherworld Hollywood and some other worlds that might be coming up. And then if you have any questions, let us know. Like, the format of this is we have a couple of topics we're going to talk about, but then if you have questions about tabletop gaming or what have you, we will definitely go over those and kind of have a conversation. So Michelle and I started this in 2018, and can you?
I know with the pandemic and everything, it just seems so long ago now.
Anything started before the pandemic seems like it's like 20 years ago or something.
It really does. It's like this from 2020 till like 2022. It's almost like those years didn't exist. And I'll say, oh yeah, this just happened oh no, that was in like 2019. That's 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. But the opposite is true of when like somebody's like, oh, 2001 was 23 years ago. I'm like, no, it wasn't. 2 seconds ago. Or,
yeah, absolutely.
It's like, oh no. But so Otherworld Hollywood, and I won't get into any spoilers or anything for those of you who have not listened to it, is a Call of Cthulhu game based in 1950s MacArthur era Hollywood. And it is the third show of the series. So we had London, then we did Seattle, and then Hollywood. I teased Mars. Now, Otherworld Mars might happen. It might be another place. It depends on what kind of writing we end up doing. But Otherworld Hollywood came out, and I felt like we just hit a really good chord with it. Everybody kind of just worked together well, and it gelled. And so for it to get nominated is just kind of I don't know, what am I trying to say? It just means so much.
It means a lot because it's just, it's sort of validation for what we've been doing. All of the other worlds, all of our programs, I am very proud of. Otherworld London is very near and dear to my heart because it was our first one.
Yeah.
Otherworld Seattle, we had such a good cast, and it was just really fun to play with those people. But Otherworld Hollywood hit just this very specific emotional place, I think, for everyone in the cast. And we really just ran with it. And we didn't know how many episodes it was going to be. And it ended up being a lot. But it was enough to tell the story the way we wanted to tell it. And that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah, I think that, this was the first time that we didn't do seasons, and that helped a lot. When we do shows, I know that there's probably a lot of people who are like, oh, you all talk, because they talk about like Critical Role or Dimension 20 or whatever. And it's like, how can these people, do these stories without there being some kind of script or without there being an outline of like, hey, we're going to go from point A to point B. For that level, as I hit my mic, for that level of show, which, not bragging, but I think our show is on that level.
You mean our Ennie Award nominated show?
Yeah. Today I was getting really obnoxious with it a little bit in my head because I'm like, now I've been nominated for an Emmy and an Ennie, and it just for some reason, it just the two E's and they're so close together. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop because only I find it. It's one of those dad joke things that only I find funny, and everyone else is like, oh, gee, right, shut up. But back to what I was saying, this idea that like Critical Role is, or Dimension 20 is writing down everything, and they're spitting out 3 hours worth of dialogue every week. No. And even an outline, I don't think they are doing that unless it's a very specific thing like, hey, we're starting the show. Here's what's going to happen. And I think anybody could understand something like that. But for the most part, these shows rely on the improv skills of you all and how well you can, hit the ground running and just start doing your thing.
It also speaks to you as a GM because you never know where we're going to go with it. You start out with an idea of what you may want to do or what you may want to throw in there, and we're headed there, and then all of a sudden, we're going to take a left turn here. And you just roll with it, and we never realized we took a left turn. It seems like it was just part of the story all along.
I will tell you as a very, very old GM that I lost my hey, this is the way this show is going, or this is the way this game is going to go years ago. When you're a young GM and you're just starting out, it's very easy to think, oh, wow, this would be cool if this happened and then this happened. And then you may end up trying to railroad your players into a particular storyline. And as you gain experience, you realize, number one, if you have good players, they won't allow you to do that because they're going to be like, no, we're going to do our own thing. And there's no reason to stress about it. Just let it go, have fun, listen to what they're saying and then add to it. So I think that's one of those big lessons that GMs have to learn is just don't do that. There's been so many times on all of these different shows. One topic that we're going to talk about in the future is monster lovers, romances, where players are like, you introduce a monster and the player's like, hey.
And they're like, ooh.
And I'm like, wow. Terry did that to me on London. Chrissy's done it to me a couple of times. I can't remember. I think Candace might have once. But the first time it happened, which was with Terry, it just threw me off completely. I was like, okay, we're just going to have to... It was with Sir Nunos in London, and it helped the show, It was
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And it gave a lot of story fodder.
Yeah, a lot of story.
I think as a player, one of the hardest things that I had to learn, because, as a young player, you want to win everything. Right? I want to win at D&D, right? Or, but you want to win every battle. You want to do the best at everything. And I think the biggest lesson for me was that no, failure means story. Yeah. And failure gives everybody else an opportunity to jump in and do something different.
Absolutely.
As long as it doesn't kill the party.
Yeah.
Although that's happened too.
Like casting Tornado and killing Mike's.
I would have done something like that. I never would have ever
good old GURPS
killed another character accidentally.
That was a lot of fun.
We were playing a GURPS game, and I was playing a warrior monk kind of thing, but more magic user. And at first level, why did they give you Tornado? So
that's the thing, though. There are no levels. You get points.
True.
And if you min-max your character, you get Tornado.
Well, I had Tornado, and I remember Mike's character, the name was Zira.
Zero.
And
it was
no, it was Zira.
It was
Zira. It was Zira. Yeah. And and we're dealing with some enemy, and I cast Tornado, and I failed I made the roll to cast the spell, but I failed the roll on directing the spell. And it came back towards us, and everyone made their save except for Zira. And Zira's last words were Zira feels dizzy. That was it. And poor Mike had to roll up a whole new character.
Yeah. But those are I think those are all just lessons people learn as they go through. Like it's the classic don't cast fireball in a 10 by 10 foot room unless you really hate everyone. It's a good way to end a game. Just be like, oh, I want out of this group, fireball. And then you're done. Move on with your...
And no one will play with you ever again.
No one will ever play with you again. But if you don't like them, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, so I mean, today was just really cool. To be honest, we literally this Sunday, we were talking about, hey, we've been doing this for 6 years. And, the pandemic, we took a big hit and our listenership went down like hard. And then after the pandemic, we were slowly coming back up. And it has just felt like this slog trying to get back to where we were before the pandemic, which I think is something that a lot of people, but when you're in the middle of it, it can be really hard to feel like, hey, I want to get up and edit this episode. I've been doing this now, like post-production for, God, almost as long as we've been married. So very long time, 24 years, 25 years. And dialogue editing, the most tedious thing on the face of the planet. And so you have to have a drive to keep doing a podcast or anything. There has to be some kind of reason to get up every morning and do the work, right? And so we were talking about this and we're like, we love the show. We've been doing it for 6 years. We've put out some pretty cool shows over that time, not just the Otherworld shows, but there's the Unquiet Blood, there's Dead Drop, there's all of the stuff we did with the nanites and the different shows. We've had some amazing moments in that time. All the different Fear Itself one-shots we've done with the mental institutions and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't want to give this up, but we've got to feel like we're making some kind of progress, and gaining listenership, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to justify what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
no, you do. You have to stay motivated. It was really difficult because we were building those numbers before the pandemic. The pandemic hurt every podcast because people weren't commuting.
Yeah.
And where do people listen? Most people listen to their podcasts in the car on a commute, or a huge chunk of people. So, okay, pandemic's over. We're going to slowly climb our way back up. But during the pandemic, everybody and their mother's brother started making a podcast. So it became even harder to make yourself stand out in that field. So it's just very, like I said before, validating. It's really encouraging, and it does make you go, okay, let's keep this going. What's next?
Well, and I think for myself, so on Monday we told Discord, we're like, hey, we need your help. Give us shout outs, tell people about us, because we need to turn the ship around and get things kind of rolling. And a lot of people did, and that was incredibly encouraging. And I was like, okay, if we keep at this for the year, and the Ennies weren't even in my brain at that. I'd forgotten about the Ennies. Had put it in a long time ago. There's literally hundreds of podcasts that get put in for the Ennies. So the thought that we would even get nominated, like, okay, whatever, that's not going to happen. If there's 200 people up for the Ennie, that's really difficult to nominate for. So it really wasn't a thought. And the response on Monday and from Discord and from our listeners was positive. and had people that gave us shout outs and helped out. I'm like, okay, we'll just keep pushing and try to get our numbers up. And then this happened today, and like, all right, cool. I'm in a completely different headspace than I was on Sunday. And I have a lot more, just a lot more drive again. Hey, people have noticed us, and they know, because you get in your head. To answer your question, Bowman, no, it's not. We didn't submit last year. Candace was a judge last year, so we didn't submit then. But beforehand, we have submitted a couple of times.
Because Candace couldn't recuse themselves from being a judge, and so we couldn't submit anything that had Candace in it because they would have had to judge it, and they can't judge their own stuff.
Now, I can't remember. I did submit last year. We submitted Dead
we
Drop. We did Dead Drop
because Candace was not in that one.
Yeah. And like the weird thing is today I looked in, Otherworld Hollywood lasted for like 8 months. It took a while to get through. We did 31 episodes, and that Dead Drop is a gumshoe game, and one that I'd love to get back to that world. That was a lot of fun. And anytime we can have B on, because they're funny. B is very funny.
B is very funny, and B is fun to play off of. I always love the interactions between B and Saint because the two of them just make me laugh so hard.
I think that from the Otherworld Hollywood thing, the funniest thing that it's in the very first episode, and Candace comes in and her agent is telling them that they're starting to get old, and they're not going to be able to get the same the same roles. And I don't think a lot of people caught it when Candace said it, but she's all like, I'm still young. I can hang from a rope. I can be tied to a train track like it's a silent film thing from 30 years before. And it just cracked me up. I think she was like, how long have you been my agent? And I was like, 30 years. So.
And I didn't catch it the first time they said it. It wasn't till later.
It was so quick. It was, and that's what makes, Candace and B and all of our different people, including yourself, so much fun, is that you all will say something, and I think a lot of times it flies under the radar completely. So I can
there
hang
are
from a rope.
so many times when we're recording where a couple of other people are in a scene and we'll be on mute in Zoom so that we can watch but still have a snack or a drink or whatever, and they will say something so funny that you literally see everyone just disappear from their window because they've fallen over laughing. Like, you see,
what's funny about that is that Audacity is still running in the background. You all mute Zoom.
Well, I hear for courtesy.
Yeah, no, yeah. I hear all of that. So it's interesting to hear you guys bust up behind the scenes.
But it's just really funny. You see everyone's face just duck under their window, in Zoom because they've just bent over laughing.
So, in conclusion, for the whole Ennie thing, yeah, it was definitely rejuvenating and very much appreciated. It'd be really cool. Go ahead.
I really appreciate our listeners because they also pulled through this week and tweeted and threaded and whatever it was.
Whatever
it is now, and helped us out on social media and gave us reviews and everything like that. And I think that I love interacting with the listeners on the Discord. I absolutely do. When I can. I'm not always there to type in stuff, but at least I'll put an emoji, but I love seeing the conversations. I love interacting with them because they're part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, yeah, Bowman, I think you're right. I think that the nomination's going to help, even if we don't win. But I think we have an opportunity to win too. I'm not going to sit here and say it never happened, because we got in the top 5 out of like 200 people. So anything's possible. But I'm just very happy that we're in the position we're in. I wanted also, since we're talking about the Otherworld games and everything, to talk about Call of Cthulhu in general, because you and I have been playing Call of Cthulhu for a while. And basically, it's a percentile game. It's an older game that's been revamped. Like, they added advantage, disadvantage. They did not have that. Old Call of Cthulhu, just like old Dungeons and Dragons, incredibly brutal. Very, very brutal. You could lose 100, sand.
It's like Delta Green.
Delta Green now. Yikes. Yeah. Taya, yeah. What's your first? If Cthulhu is your second favorite, what is your first? I'm just curious. Oh, your own? Well, there you go. All right. So I'm going to spell it for you. You tell me how you would say this, because
okay.
I don't want to butcher it too badly. Nuovarden. Let's see if you say it right.
Nuovarden?
Nuovarden?
Nuovarden. You said Nuovarden?
Yep.
What language is it supposed to be?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
It's
because if it was a Germanic, it'd be Nuovarden. It wouldn't be a V sound, it'd be a F sound.
Ah.
I like languages.
Old land plaque. See, this is the thing. I'm LANPLAC. I'm actually terrible at languages. Michelle is not. I am. I'll look at stuff. It's an iteration of Italian, kind of. Fun.
So, Nuovarden.
Oh, man.
I know this might get me in trouble with somebody somewhere, but I find that when pronouncing Italian, if you've got Mario in your head, it actually helps.
Yeah.
Buongiorno. It's me, Mario.
I don't think there's any. I mean, truth is truth. So it means new garden. That's cool.
Oh, I like that.
Number one for me is so Bowman is the One Ring in horror Trail of Cthulhu. Now, Trail of Cthulhu, I've been thinking about running. That for one of the Otherworld. And I know I just interrupted you. What are you going to say?
Well, no, I was going to say One Ring. I got to play it on Happy Jacks with Kimmy running. And I don't know if all One Ring games are like this. This was my experience with that game. It was just so wholesome and wonderful. And we really bonded. And I can totally see if you had a home campaign with One Ring, I could see your players really just bonding and having an absolute blast with a long campaign with that.
Yeah, I would like to play that at some point and just kind of see how it is. Just to play it. I love the old, the old Tolkien stuff is fun to play. Not always wholesome, yeah.
Our game pretty much was very wholesome, but it was just really fun. It was hilarious because when they had asked me, because Jay Africa had to step out, and so they needed a player, so I was stepping in mid-campaign, and Kimmy asked me, how much do you know about Lord of the Rings? It's not a requirement that you know a lot, but I just want to know so I can tailor the game. I said, oh, okay. And I go, well, I've read the books and I read The Hobbit and I saw the movies, a couple times. I think I know, and I saw Rings of Power. I think I'm pretty well versed. So I sit down at the table with Kimmy and Kai. Kimmy, whose wedding crown was modeled after an elven, a Tolkien-esque elven crown, and Kai, who has not only read but reread the Silmarillion several times.
That's saying something.
That's saying something. The two of them, the amount of Tolkien lore that was spouting out of the two of them, I'm like, I am a rank amateur.
When anybody sits there, I mean, when anybody's like, hey, I know I've read the Silmarillion before, more than once. You know what? Let's do it. And that is a dedicated.
When Kai is semi-fluent in Elvish.
Well,
you know you're outclassed.
Didn't you know a certain amount of Klingon back in the day, though?
I only know like a word, just literally one word.
Really?
Keplach. Yeah.
Doesn't everybody know Keplach? I thought you knew more than that. You're Trekkie.
No, I at one time I toyed with the idea of learning Klingon. I really did. I was at Vroman's in Pasadena. Vroman's, for those of you not from the LA area, it's this really big bookstore that's been there forever. And it's a wonderful bookstore. I love Vroman's. But I was at Vroman's. I was probably about 11 or 12. And they had all those language tapes because it was before, apps and everything like that. And they had all these language tapes. And one of the languages that you could learn was Klingon. And boy, did I toy with that idea. but then I really was going to buy it. And then I thought, no, because I didn't know anyone else who spoke Klingon. So who was I going to practice with?
I know, like...
And it wouldn't be practical. If I was going to spend time learning a language, it would be one that I could use in the world.
Like Romulan? What?
Like Romulan.
Like Romulan or something like that. I just remember when we first started dating.
So blurry. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We're going to have to figure that out. I think if you move too much for these cameras, they go nuts. They have...
I was like 12. I didn't know that at the time.
Oh, yeah. But nowadays, when we first got married, we were watching Star Trek. And I made some comment about why they don't just fire photon torpedo or something. And without missing a beat, Michelle goes, well, they can't do that. Their shields are up. And I hadn't even caught the fact that they're up or cared.
Well, and there was something else where you're like, well, why can't they just do this? And I go, well, the warp nacelles.
Ah.
And it went off on a whole thing. I don't even remember what it was.
I was already in love with you.
Who did I marry?
Yeah, I was already in love, so I couldn't just leave. But I did cover my eyes a lot. Oh, God. Not that I'm any better. I'm a pretty big...
No, you're not. You're not. I'm going to close my camera for a second and realize it's really bugging me.
Yeah. You're all fuzzy.
That did nothing. It's just gotten worse and worse as we've been going, so we'll figure it out.
Well, what's funny is it actually looks a little bit better on the smaller screen, the Zoom.
Okay.
So
yeah, Zoom's a little weird.
So they're talking in the chat about Tolkien and everything. You should pull it up just so you can see the chat.
Okay. I feel like I'm missing out here.
You are, because we're finding out just, that we're all huge. Do they have Duolingo for these things now? Can you learn?
They don't have Klingon, but they have Pirate, or at least Mango does. I don't know about Duolingo.
Is Mango the one that stalks you to make sure that you listen?
No, that's Duolingo.
That's Duolingo.
That's the one where the owl shows up at your house.
Why haven't you done this? Wow, we went off on a big tirade about talking different languages, orcs, but that's okay. So, circling back around to our favorite game, I think that I really enjoy Gumshoe. Mothership is great. Mothership is so deadly. We're going to start recording more episodes soon. And there's a thing of your high score, how long you can keep a character alive. Because for a while, a lot of games were like, try not to kill your characters. You get 3 death saves and everything else. And then, like, I think the pendulum has swung the other way. It's like, you died, you stepped on a rusty nail, you're dead. Which everything goes in cycles, I guess. It really just depends on where you're at in the thing. But Mothership is definitely very much. Mothership and Delta Green are incredibly deadly, and basically the way, Borg sounds like Beaker from Borg is definitely. The only thing that I have a problem with that particular system is that it's hard for me to read the book because of the way that they've done the layout. It can be a little difficult for me to get that one. All of the like pictures and everything's kind of askewed, and they've got all this stuff going on. But it definitely is cool. It looks cool. It just can be a little hard for me to read. I think they're coming out. I am not like, I like Lord of the Rings and all of these different things. I know that a lot of the fandom had a really hard time with Rings of Power. I liked Rings of Power. I know that
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is fun.
Well, maybe because I'm just a noob apparently on the Tolkien side.
Yeah, I know. Maybe we just don't understand what the classic text are, and we're completely, unable to understand how wrong everything. But I think that's see, Bowman is not a noob when it comes to Tolkien. That it was great. I enjoyed Fallout was amazing. The fact that they can do this now with make really epic, cool things out of like video game, and is just like, we live in a golden age of entertainment for sure, that we're getting all this stuff. Right now we're recording Vaesen, and I don't want to give away too much, but the first 2 episodes were, how would you characterize them, Michelle?
Creepy, cool, inventive. I don't know.
I think that because I like folk horror so much, I went pretty hard on the dark, the dark and grim side of it. So
yeah,
I wrote out this entire skeleton because, like we were talking about earlier, you don't, GMs write out a skeleton of where the game might go or what the game might be doing, and then the players fill in everything else. The players, we all fill in everything else, but kind of just go through and flesh everything out. And so I think that I'm giving way too much, since it's going to be pretty kick-ass at the end of the day.
I think it's going to be fun. I think we have a really great cast, and like I said, super creepy, super fun. I don't want to give away too much, but
yeah,
nice and creepy.
Well, it's funny because we did with Candlestick Crimes. I wanted to do something a little bit more lighthearted, and we had some people on Discord who's like, "Oh, what are these crimes going to be? Wait a minute, it's about scented candles." Like, yeah, every once in a while we like to just relax a little bit. Doesn't need to be so horror all the time. Most of the time, yes, not all the time. So yeah, I think that we're doing Scandinavia, Bowman. And the reason, thanks. Yeah, Swords of the Serpentines, like in my top 5 settings and game. I love that setting. And it's why we keep going back to it. This is our 3rd time. We did Blades of Eversink, and we did Bookhound Bounty Hunters beforehand. And it's so good. Like if you were to say, look, you can have 2 games, one being horror and one being fantasy, I'd probably pick Call of Cthulhu. Swords of the Sword. They're incredible games. But yeah, this current game's a lot of fun. And I hate to tell you guys, unfortunately, we were like, hey, we'll just do 6 episodes. We'll just wrap it up. And I wrote too much. So I have this big plot line and this thing going on. And so we decided we were part of it now, part of it later, because we had to start Vaesen. and we couldn't. I had my surgery, and so we had to kind of move things around. And so we end on episode 6. Basin happens, and then we're going to go back and probably do 6 to 8 episodes of Candlestick Crimes. Because I can never write. Just everything has to be ginormous. Yeah, I am fully recovered. Thank you. I'm doing a lot better. That was another thing that hurt us, the show-wise. We're talking up at the head of the show, is that for 6 weeks, I couldn't do anything. I was just confined to, I mean, I could get up and stuff, but like I couldn't go anywhere for the first 5 weeks. I couldn't sit down and work or concentrate. I had to just lay down and watch as much TV as possible. 10 Candles. You know what? I've seen 10 Candles. I should remember it. I've never checked that one out. I know it's quite popular, but yeah, so I'm fully recovered now, but it did hurt us because we had to go back to every other week. And the quickest way for your listenership to fall is by going every other week. So, having gaps like that is difficult. So we've got about, I don't know, we're getting close to the end. Does anybody have any questions or anything to ask us? I know this is our first episode. We're kind of getting our legs underneath us. If you don't, that's cool. Let us know. But we, like I said, we really appreciate everybody's involvement, everybody hanging out. Ty and Bowman, you guys have been great. But we have had, I'm going to start like doing more streams during the week. At least it's my goal. Doing map making, playing video games, stuff like that. I think that that we have some content up on Twitch. Oh man. Wow. That's
the list.
That's a list. Yeah. Okay. So there's the game that I would love to run that I know I can never run because, I would love to run an old school D&D game, like literally first edition, but I don't think I can get my cast behind that. I might be able to get Michelle to grudgingly. I just don't see.
I'd be down for second ed, but I don't.
Yeah. So I mean, just because I would love to do a Saturday morning stream. This is the idea, and it is the 50th anniversary of D. Talk about that on the show, but I would love to do Saturday morning cartoon D&D game. Thaco. See, everyone complains about Thaco. Thaco's easy.
No, Thaco was not hard. That wasn't the thing. It was the I don't know. It was
everything else.
It was everything else.
The fact that a vampire could drain 2 levels of your, every time it hit you or whatever.
Yeah, elf is a class.
Elf is a class. That's basic though. That's not advanced. I would do D&D. I wouldn't do.
I would agree with you, Bowman. I think that the state of the mechanics and the settings and everything have advanced a great deal.
Oh, they have.
And I do like the more streamlined. I think the nostalgia is just like, oh, do you remember when you could get killed, at the drop of a hat, or just remembering the fun times you had with those games, even though they could be clunky.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. But also, to be fair, though, first edition D&D and those earlier editions, in my opinion, are horror survival games. And the new OSR, like Old School Essentials or whatever, have really clarified the rules and made it easier to run. But it is not a podcast show. It is not a podcast game. I mean, you can, but it's not us. And even though I get nostalgia about it, and I'm like, yeah, I'd really like to do this. I also know what we are. We're a story-heavy game. We ignore rules constantly. Constantly. I'll be like recording something, and I'll be like, oh, is that even a rule in this game? Like, whoops,
Whoops.
I made it up on the fly as we're going through. Because if you're taking breaks to look up rules, there's just issues. So back to the question. So yeah, doing a first edition game is a nostalgic dream that will never happen, but it is something I do think about. Superhero game of some sort, Mutants and Masterminds. So, the new Marvel game is out. I have the core book for that. I'd like to run that. What else? I have the new Warhammer. I don't know if that one would. Again, that's a little bit too technical for the way that we run things. I'm sure there's a list of indie games that I haven't done yet. Orc Borg would be cool. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Now, there's a lot of games that I would also like to get back to. Like, let's see. I would think that I'd like to get back to Cyberpunk Red. We only got to play a little bit of that. I'm always up for getting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, I would do that. I would also do Ghostbusters in a heartbeat. I would do Ghostbusters. That would be a lot of fun. Though, again, that might be a nostalgia thing. I don't know. I have the original Star Wars, like the 2D6 game. I think that would be great. I haven't gotten to play that one yet. One Ring on the show would be cool. I have a ton of OSR stuff, but again, that's the side. Like there's DCC, so Dungeon Crawl Classics and all that. The reason we don't play D&D is because everybody plays, and I can't bring myself. We did the one D&D campaign, which was the steampunk thing.
Yeah, the Eberron.
The Eberron thing that Mac ran. It was fun, but for me personally, I want to play other games that aren't D&D. So,
well, and I think that with our hobby, D&D is the gateway drug. Almost everybody starts with it, but depending on what you're into, there are so many other games out there to explore. And I think doing D&D, doing what everybody else is doing, okay, yay, but you're not exposing anybody to anything new. And I think for anybody who might be still having fun with D&D, but they want to see what else is out there, like, I love horror, and D&D does not lend itself to horror.
No, not at all.
It just doesn't. It never has. Yeah, it never has. And playing games that lend themselves to what you're into more, you want to, I don't know, you want to expose people to stuff that they're not exposed to all the time.
Well, I think that, okay, so this is a subject we're going to leave for another time because it's a big subject, obviously, talking about how omnipresent and for, I think we should leave that another time. But, also, like, I'd like to try Cypher System again. You guys will get to Vason. I'm always I'm actually writing a game right now, so we will be doing some testing of that with the Patreon people. I guess that's a good segue to wrap it up. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff over the next year with the idea of growing. And one of those things is I've been writing now pretty consistently past month. It's the one thing I could do when I was in. So I think that it'll be a lot of fun to go over my game system and do some play testing. If you're watching us right now and haven't followed us yet, definitely follow us so that you join us next time and get alerted for what we are doing. We are going to be every Friday starting about 6 o'clock and just jumping on here, having conversations about different aspects of top, and if people want advice from us, from ancient GM and player.
Says you. Speak for yourself.
I'm totally speaking.
I'm young at heart, Wes.
You are. You're much younger at heart than I am. It's always funny because, like, Janine, who I think is our youngest player, every once in a while, she'll say something that's deep. It's like, oh God. Oh, yeah. 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. And yeah, and if you know, so the way that you can help out, follow, subscribe, become a Patreon member, give us shout outs, definitely follow us on the different socials, and just do what you do. Listen, let people know like what. And we are going to try to be back and more stuff as much as possible. This year's important. It's time to shake off, you know, the surgery and the pandemic and all the stuff that has kind of held us back. So as I knock on wood, even though I'm not superstitious. Thank you all for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
We have 2 more episodes of Candlestick Crimes coming out. Next, well, no, I'm ahead of, I think you guys only have the first 3. So there's still 3 more. And then we get into Vaesen, which is the hidden north. And that's going to be that really is. So I'm really excited for that. So anyway, thank you all so much for listening. And Becky, you want to sign off, Michelle, real quick? Just
but say thank you. And you know where to find us. You know where to find us. You can find me on the socials at Mishulu. You can, I like pretty much all the socials at Mishulu. And you can find my music and Wes's amazing sound effects if you subscribe to the Plate Mail Games catalog through BattleBards.
Yep. And find us at 12Sided Stories. And thank you. And we will be much smoother as this goes along. This is our first episode. So Bowman and Ty, thank you so much for hanging out. And everyone who is hanging out and
just in there, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We'll
have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.